I recently got my hair cut for the first time in over 2 years. I haven't actually sat in a hairdresser's chair for so long. The last time I did before this time was to get my sides shaved when I was in Manchester. But other than that, I haven't set foot in a hairdresser or a barber for a very long time because I've been growing my hair out and many other reasons. Whenever I talk about my hair journey online and how it relates to my gender and my expression, people seem to really like it. So I want to give like a brief timeline of my hair journey and how it relates to my gender and kind of go through it with you all, because I think something that we don't talk about enough is how much hair impacts euphoria and how important it is for a lot of trans individuals. We talk a lot about gender affirming healthcare and gender affirming procedures, but actually getting your hair cut is the quickest way to affirm your gender, and most often or not, the cheapest way to do so as well, and something that you can reverse or change or grow out. And I highly recommend that if you are exploring your gender, that you do experiment with your hair, because it's a great starting point. So I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to show you photos throughout. So I hope you enjoy. Please don't comment on my eyebrows at certain stages, my hairstyles at certain stages. No, you can comment, obviously. I'm putting this out on the internet, so of course you can comment. But yeah, let's go into my hair/gender journey. Thing that not a lot of people know about me is that I grew up on the stage. I was a competitive dancer, and a pretty good one, to say the least. I actually went to the Olympics and danced for Great Britain. So for a very long time growing up, my hair had to be long. I wasn't allowed any fringes, any colours. So I was kind of restricted to my natural hair, and for a while I really hated my natural hair because of it, because I wasn't allowed to do all these fun things that everybody else was doing who wasn't involved in competitive dancing. When I left dancing, that was when I really began to experiment with my hair. My first kind of queer haircut was I got the underside of my head shaved, and the reason I did this was because I was in my English A-level class, and there was a girl in that class who had an undercut shaved, and I remember just looking at this person and thinking, wow, this is an amazing hairstyle. It's so edgy, but it's also so feminine. You can put it up and be a bit more masked. You can have it down and no one will know. So I loved it, and I had variations of this hairstyle for a long time. I had shapes cut into it. I had different fades. I absolutely love this hairstyle, and as someone who has extremely thick hair, it really helped throughout the summer and just in everyday life, washing it, putting it up. It was, loved it. Then we head into my colour phase, and that's when I really started to explore with bleaching my hair and colouring it various colours. I've had so many colours, but during this particular phase of my life, I dyed it so often. It was not okay. I had blue, I had purple, I had red, I had this amazing lime and green colour, which was a complete mistake, but I absolutely loved it. It's my dad's favourite hair colour on me, which is so bizarre and random, but that was an accident. Dyeing my hair lots of different colours. I didn't really know what colours I wanted to dye my hair. I was just doing them whatever colours I could think of, and I think that was probably because I'd spent so long having just boring brown hair that I just wanted to really live my colourful fantasy. Now we kind of get into my early 20s, and this is when I discovered that I actually have alopecia. So I had my first alopecia spike when I was about 19, 20, and it was a really scary time for me. I absolutely was just so upset, not only because I had lost my hair and I felt very uncomfortable in myself, but because some of the damage was because of me, because of bleaching my hair loads and dyeing it loads, but also outside factors. So a lot of stress I had going on in my life, some not great relationships had caused this alopecia to spike. So I started to notice patches of hair loss at the back of my head, at the top of my head, and at the time I didn't know I was non-binary. I was figuring out, I knew something was going on with my gender and my expression, but I didn't even know non-binary existed at this point. This was pre-lockdown, pre-D figuring out they were non-binary. And I was like, what am I going to do with my hair? Because I've got these bald patches, I want to cover it, but my hair's so dead. So I did the chop, and I cut off all of my hair apart from the top part, just so then I had something to cover my patches, but enough that it was short enough to kind of grow out and get healthy again. And this was my first kind of mask haircut. And at the time, I didn't really realize that it was a mask haircut for me. But when I look back at pictures, I realized that I was really enjoying having this edgy, kind of more masculine, androgynous hairstyle, whilst also still dressing a bit more femininely, wearing makeup. I really enjoyed it. And the grow out stage, awful. However, I was also growing out my alopecia, so for me it was even double worse. But I knew I had to start from scratch, and my hairdresser suggested just kind of cutting it all off but leaving enough to cover patches. So that's what I did. And I also stopped dyeing my hair for a while to also let it breathe and just kind of let it grow, let it be. And then I also used ointments, various other treatments for my alopecia as well. Then we get into lockdown, and this was when I was growing my hair out. So this was the longest my natural hair had been since I was dancing. And this was also during the time that I was figuring out my gender identity. So at the start of lockdown, I had really long hair. I was very hyper feminine. And then I obviously stumbled down the pipeline of, oh, wait, you don't like being called a girl. You don't like being called a lady, but also you don't feel like a man. Oh, you're non-binary. And when I discovered that I was non-binary, obviously the first thought in my brain was, how am I going to express this externally? Disclaimer, if you're non-binary, you don't have to change anything about your expression just because you're non-binary. But something that we see a lot, and something that happens a lot for a lot of people that are newly out as non-binary, is that they kind of want to explore how to present more non-binariness. And of course there is no one way to look non-binary, but a very common experience is for you to kind of dive into androgyny and think, this is who I should be because this is the only perception of non-binary there is at this time anyway. So of course I was looking for a haircut that was more gender affirming, was a bit more androgynous, but still a bit femme, still a bit mask. So I entered my mullet phase, and I had so many mullets during this phase. My first mullet was questionable. Not a big fan of it. Then I cut the ends of the mullet off and I started growing it out a bit more, and then I got another mullet. So I was kind of growing my hair out, getting a mullet, growing my hair out, getting a mullet, growing my hair out, getting a mullet, and that lasted for about a year. Then I finally grew out my mullet and was like, no more mullet, I'm gonna have just long hair, because you know what, hair doesn't equal gender identity, and I can just be whoever I want to be regardless of what society is telling me in regards to being androgynous, meaning you're non-binary. So I was unlearning a lot of things whilst also trying to figure out how best to just feel comfortable in myself. This was then the phase that I decided to add my blonde streak into my hair, and I absolutely still love my blonde streak in my hair. I thought it was such a good look for me, and it did make me feel a bit mask, a bit femme. It was just perfect. I loved it. And as somebody who was still in recovery for alopecia, my patches had grown out quite a bit by now, but I was still in recovery, so I didn't want to dye my whole head because I was still worried about whether it would be able to take it. So I only did a small section of it, but I absolutely loved this hairstyle. And if I could just like click my fingers and go back to a hairstyle, that is definitely up there on the list of hairstyles that I would jump to have again. Then, for some reason, I decided to cut all my hair off. And at this point, I wanted to be a bit more masculine. I was a bit more in my androgynous era. I was still exploring my non-binariness. I had just entered a new queer relationship, and I decided I wanted a haircut. So I chopped it all off, and since then I started getting comments saying that I look like Emma Darcy, which I still love getting those comments so much. And I got one this year, so love it. So I chopped all my hair off, but this style still wasn't mask enough for me. The person who cut the hair, or cut my hair I should say, was going for more of a feminine look, and I could tell they didn't want me to cut too much off, so I allowed them to go with it because I was going from very long hair to very, very short hair again. So I was like, I would trust in the process, but I didn't like it. So then I decided to go even more mask, and that's where I went to a barber for the first time. Getting your hair cut in a barber compared to getting your hair cut by a hairdresser is such a humbling experience, and it's so wildly different. When you go to a barber, it's like a percentage of the cost. They don't do any of the extra things. They get you in that chair, they get you out. So for me, I really enjoyed it, and luckily I went to barbers that were very inclusive, and they were happy to give me a more masculine cut. They didn't tell me, oh, you know, you should stay with the feminine style. They were like, no, you go for it, you have that mask hairstyle. So I kind of got back my mullet, like a baby mullet. And I really did enjoy this hairstyle for a while. Now I look back at it, I don't like it at all. But when I had it, I really enjoyed it, and I felt more mask, more androgynous, and I was just living that best, you know, I'm non-binary, here's my hair, you're going to know I'm non-binary. So I did love it for a very long time, and that was when I was really deep in my mask era, where actually I was using trans mask labels. I was even questioning using he, him alongside they, them. So it was a hairstyle that really related to how I felt in my identity, but now I look back at it, I'm like, not again. But I'm glad I went through it. So we've entered my mask era. I've got the shortest hair that I can possibly have without being bald. So what do? I buzz all my hair off. Why? I've never had a buzz cut. I really wanted a buzz cut, and I do believe in the theory that everybody should have a buzz cut once in their life, just to experience it and just to understand what it means to have a buzz cut. And it really does, you know, change how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your outfits, how you perceive your expression, how you style it. There's so many things that come with having a buzz cut, and I would highly recommend getting a buzz cut for anyone who has never had one before. But for future D, never get a buzz cut again because you hated it. The grow out of this was awful. I absolutely hated it. The first day buzz, great. A week later when it's starting to grow out, absolutely hated it, couldn't stand it. I looked like a Barbie that had had all their hair shaved off. And of course, at that moment in time, my alopecia decided to make a comeback. So I had this really short buzz cut that was slightly growing out, and now I had these alopecia patches. So I just lived in a hat, and for a very long time I lived in a cap or various caps. There's so many photos and videos of me in caps during this time because I didn't know what to do with my hair. I had my alopecia patches, which I'm not ashamed of showing them, but I also wasn't comfortable with my hair in general, so I didn't know what to do. So I just wore hats religiously all the time. I even wore them in bed just before turning off the light because I hated how much my hair looked. I'm realizing how long this video is now and how much I'm talking about my hair and how many styles and expressions I've gone through, and it's actually quite wild. Next up, my hair is growing out. My alopecia patches are finally filling in a little bit now. So what do I decide to do? I'm going to shave the sides and go back to that androgynous masculine haircut that I had before I buzzed it all off, which sounds great, and it was great. I do actually really prefer this style of haircut that I had, but I also think it was just because I finally had some hair on my head. Obviously, I then had to also bring back the blonde streak in my hair, which again made me feel so good. I loved it. Mwah, perfect. I then dyed it pink for the first time, and this is the first time I've dyed my hair pink, and it changed me. Something in me changed, and I realized this is who I'm going to be. So I had a pink bit in my fringe for a really long time, still very mask, but this was a huge turning point because for me, I realized that I could have pink hair or wear pink things and still be non-binary. So it was a huge win for me. I really enjoyed the hair. I didn't keep it too long because I just kind of wanted to grow it out and have it all the same color and just kind of, you know, force it to grow out and then figure out what to do. But I really enjoyed my little pink highlight. It was definitely up there. And if I was to return to short hair, I would definitely do this haircut with the pink again. Fast forward a few months, I'm growing my hair out. I'm still wearing caps. I go for a breakup. So what do you do when you go for a breakup? You dye your hair. So I went over to my friend's house literally 2 days after the breakup and said, hey, I need to dye my hair. I really want to dye it. I don't feel good in myself. What can you do? So she decided to dye the front of my hair pink. And at this time, I didn't have a front fringe. It was just my like 2 side bits. And I loved this haircut. If I really listened to my soul, I would go back to this kind of style again. However, the grow out of it is so annoying and the bad hair days are so annoying, but I absolutely loved the length. I loved how it was pixie. I loved how I looked like a hobbit. It was so gender affirming. And then I had the pink little statement in the front, and I just really loved this hairstyle so much. And it was the reason that I then decided to kind of keep pink in my hair for so long after that. So I had a front fringe, pink at the front, brown at the back for a very, very long time, for months even. So this was at the start of 2024. So I had this for months. Then I decided, I should give my hair a trim. So I cut it to my ear, and it was giving Joan of Arc, which I really enjoyed for the first day or two. And then I was so upset that I cut my hair because I'd been growing my hair out for so long, and it was getting so long. But I cut it all off again, and I was really unhappy about it. But I knew I had to as well because of the dead ends, and I did do it in my bathroom with fabric scissors at like 2 a.m. But that's fine. It was fine. I did that. It was a look for like 2 minutes, and then I decided I needed to grow it out further. So this is when I was kind of always wearing my hair in little pigtails, which I absolutely love. And I did a collaboration with Crazy Colour, so of course I dyed my hair completely pink for that. I loved it. I would love to go pink again, completely, but definitely by a professional this time because I did not do it properly. And surprisingly, my hair and my alopecia didn't spike back up, so that was great. But I had pink hair for a hot minute, decided I didn't like it, did the back brown again, kept the front fringe. Same story. So months and months and months and months passed, and I was like, I'm kind of getting bored of my hair. I really want long hair, but I've never had long hair before, and I can't be bothered to wait for it, so I'll get hair extensions. And my hair extension era was my favourite era. I absolutely loved my hair extensions. I loved how they made me feel. I loved how I looked in them. I loved how masked I looked, how feminine, how androgynous. It was just perfect for me. I had to give myself some breaks, so that was when I decided that I was going to give myself a break from hair extensions. So what did I do? I dyed my hair brown all over, and I regretted it so severely. I missed my pink, but I was like, I'm just going to do it brown. Hated it. And then that brings us to the start of this year. And that's when I was, again, experimenting with hair extensions, which I really loved. But something just didn't feel right. I didn't enjoy the colour of my hair. I felt like it washed me out. So I brought back my pink front fringe. And since then, I've been so much happier. And then that brings us to today, or last week's haircut, which looked amazing. And now it doesn't look as great because I've washed it. But for me, I absolutely love my hair currently. I loved the hairstyle and the blowout that the hairdresser gave me. It's my first time having my hair up in rollers, which was an experience, and I thought it might make me feel a bit dysphoric, but actually I've been really enjoying my hair and having my long hair, and just, yeah, I'm really enjoying it at the moment. And of course that can change because we all change and our expression changes. As you can see, I've changed a lot since the beginning of time, let alone coming out as non-binary. But for me, I'm really enjoying this hairstyle. And at the moment, I do have my sides still shaved because I have so much hair. And that also adds a bit of mask and a bit of androgynous to my look, which I really enjoy. And when I put it up, it just sits so well. So I really, really love my hair at the moment. And I love what the hairdresser did. And I'm trying to learn how to use curlers and rollers at the moment. So stay tuned for that because I don't know what I'm doing. And who knows if it's going to work. So that felt like a really long ramble of all of my hair situations, but I want to end the video with two things. Firstly, what I want to do in the future. I want to keep growing my hair out. I say this, tomorrow I could want to cut it short, but I do want to keep growing my hair out just to see kind of where it goes and how my gender feels in regards to my hair. I've had my hair down all week, which is the first time I've had my hair down for a whole week in such a long time. So I am more comfortable in having long hair now because I am so comfortable in my identity, and I know that my hair doesn't equal my identity. And finally, the last thing I want to leave you with is that hair has no gender, and you can put your hair in whatever style. You can cut it however you want, dye it however you want. It's completely up to you. And as I said at the beginning of this video, we don't talk enough about how important hair is to trans and non-binary people. It really makes a difference when I wake up, if I'm having a good day or a bad day, and normally that relates to my hair. And I know that's a joke of like, oh, you've got a bad hair day, you know, you've got bed head, but it really makes a difference for trans individuals, especially those who can't transition medically or aren't able to be out in all spaces. Hair is an easy way to affirm your gender and experiment with your gender without, you know, putting too much on the line. You can just get a fun haircut, and if somebody asks you why you got that haircut, you can just say, I liked this haircut. But also, if you did want to use your haircut as a way to come out to other individuals, then that's also a great thing to do. I think my family realised I was more androgynous when they started seeing my very, very short hair, and they realised, oh, okay, this is who you are, that's cool. But that is all from me. So if you would like any other videos like this, maybe a tattoo related gender affirming video, I already have a LGBTQIA plus tattoo tour on my YouTube already, but if you would like something in relation to my outfit or my makeup, that's another area where I've had a lot of exploration in the last few years, so makeup is definitely up there. So if you want any of those videos, let me know. And of course, to be very cringy, I have to ask you to subscribe and like and comment and all of that weird, awkward stuff. But yeah, I will speak to you soon. Bye.